Awesome. Perfect.
Sound good? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you perfect. Sounds
Nice.
great. All right, so welcome to day 3 of Mar Dreaming, everybody. Hope you're having a great time. As a reminder, this session is going to be recorded, so we're looking forward to it, so you can catch it on the backside. Today's session is going to be creating kick-ass email lightning templates with Theron, Troxel, and Hannah in Honning. I'm really excited about the session personally. We were talking backstage about this, and I'm really looking forward to being wowed by the lightning editor. So with that being said, I will pass it to Hannah and Theron.
Sure. Thanks everyone for joining today. Hopefully we have some really great tips that you can walk away with today. And just to give you a little bit of background on myself, I'm Hannah Horning. I am with a company called Archer Point, and I'm also a Sercante client, and I hold a dual role between Salesforce and Pardot administration.
Hi, everyone. Theron Troxel. I am a Salesforce admin, Pardot, or account engagement consultant, and a budding Salesforce developer. Currently in between jobs, so if you know anyone looking for any of those roles, feel free to pass my name. But super excited to be here today and go over some lightning email template tips and tricks with Hannah here.
All right, so we just want to thank the sponsors of Mar Dreamin'. So we'll leave those up on the screen for a second. All right, and just to go over our agenda. So today we're actually going to dive into a live demo of the Lightning Builder, and we're going to do a demo of how to build a template from scratch. We're going to talk through some advanced tips, and then also we'll just sum it up with a few top takeaways. So if you walk away from the session, those are the things you can think about, and then we'll take all your questions at the end. So please feel free to add those into the Q&A as we go, and we'll make sure to answer those at the end. All right, so Theron, if you want to take it over, and I'll stop sharing and you can take it over for the demo.
Sounds good. Thanks, Hannah. So welcome again, everyone. So I wanted to go over the lightning email template. When I was first starting, most things I saw somehow looked like this. Very basic and very difficult to find any information on it. Usually like a blurry photo, just text that's all jumbled together. And so Hannah and I wanted to create this just to hopefully help people. I wanted to just kind of live demo how to create this. And what makes kind of a kick-ass template in my mind is, work on some of the white space, good clear images, padding around, different colors, different fonts, some headers, separate some text, maybe with like a horizontal rule or even an image, and try to liven this up. So what I have here is just a blank template. And if you're new to this, this is the canvas over here. You get like a block or a section. And within that block, I can drag a button, HTML, image, or rich text. So right away, I'm going to go ahead and drag an image block over. And I have a couple options here that I can do. I can add an image through my CMS, and that's probably what most people are going to do. So you'll need to make sure all this is set up. I like to just go to the account engagement content, then file, and just upload my images there, make a vanity URL, and bring it in here. The nice thing about this is I can copy, move things around. And so if I go up, it's hard to see here, there's a row, and inside of that row is the image. So I can copy everything inside of this row if I click up on it. And now I can have 2 of these. If I want a third one, I'm going to use 3 of these. So I can go ahead and create 3 of these. And all I'm going to do here, I'm kind of going back and forth looking at another screen, is I'm just going to come in here, click on the image. I'm going to add my URL here. And, pretty easy to do. One tip I would mention on this is if you're using image, make sure it's the size you want it to be. I don't want this to be 2000 pixels wide and then have it scaled here. And what's going to happen is you're going to probably get some rendering issues with that. So if I want this 250, I'm going to bring this in, it's 250. This is just a full width. I know what that is. I made that image to match that. And so now I can just go ahead and copy the same process here. A nice clear image, full size. I'm going to add a header text. I'll move this here in a bit, or kind of a header split maybe. If I want to add a new block, I can come down here, hit one column, and I have a variety, 2 columns, 3 columns, etc. This is a 1 column that I want. I'm going to bring in a rich text editor, and now I can start filling this block with different elements. And I'm going to copy this because I'm going to use this a couple times. I can get it right here. I think I got it. And what I'm going to do is give it a second here to catch up with me. And this is similar to the classic. The one disadvantage is there's a lot of things missing. There's no dynamic content button. And kind of a spoiler alert, we'll go over that, how to enter that here in a bit. But there's no table, there's no subscript, superscript, there's no unordered list. Oh, there is unordered and ordered list, but some of the buttons are missing that you saw in the classic. But here I'm just going to come in and I'm going to go alumni, we need your support. I can type bar, sorry. And I'll get it right. And what I can do is highlight this, and I can create a different font style. So this one, I'm going to go Georgia here. Font size I can change. I'm going to go 28. I'm going to bold this. I'm going to center this. And the last thing I'm going to do is change the color. So right away, adding a lot just with this. And here you can see this looks much better than what I started with. One thing I can do is come to the style. This is going to style this rich text only. And I'm going to add some padding to this. I'm going to go 35, 20, 20, and 20. And now I have the spacing I need. Next thing I'm going to do is kind of like the cooking shows. Everything's pre-measured, chop, dice. I just dump and throw. I have the code for a lot of this, so I'm going to copy and paste the code. And one thing I do want to just mention is when I created this template, all of this was with this editor. There was no code. The only code I added was I added the padding here instead of doing the step I just did, just to save time. But I can go ahead, drop that in. There's my text. I'm going to add a button to this. And this is one spot where I think the Lightning editor does really well is the button. I can come in here. I can change the button name to donate and add my URL. And then I can come to styles. And I can really change this button very quickly. So if I want to go Georgia again, I want to keep the font size, button color. Grab that over here. Here, this is the padding, so I'm going to keep the 10, but I can go 30 and 30. And last one, I'm going to add some margin just around it. I'm doing 20, 20, 20. So real quick, I was able to create this. I can come up. I'm going to hit the row, and I'm going to change the color of the background on this one. And if you want, you can do a background image. Be careful, not all email clients will render this correctly, so you might have to follow it up with a background color. But if I do this, now I can see this is the block, and I actually want this inside of that block. and I actually want this one inside of that block. And so fairly quick, I have this, and kind of following the same suit here, I'm going to add just a couple more blocks to show what's going on here. So I'm going to add another block and drag the rich text here. A little bit of a delay. And what I did here, I added just an image. This is a URL. This is a trick I got from Jen Kazan. And I just made this in Word and right-clicked on it, saved image, and brought this in. But this, helps separate the text. Next one, I'm going to add a 3-column. And this is similar to Bootstrap, if you've worked with that, where it's going to divide this into columns of 12. And so if I have 3 columns, they're all going to be 4. I can subtract this, make this 2-column. If this is 4, that's going to be a third of the space, where this is 8. If I want to make them all the same again, I can click that. So I do want a 3-column on this one, just to kind of show. I'm going to drag that rich text again. And once it catches up, now I can go ahead and paste my code. And this is where, again, it's real nice. I can just come here. I can duplicate this. And I can move it over. I can duplicate again, move over. And one thing mentioned is there's no auto save for this. So one thing I usually do is after each brick or block I make, I go ahead and save this. So I want to do 2 more sections and then I'll be done here. Hopefully get through this a little bit quicker. So I'm going to grab another rich text. And that one I didn't hit source. So just for sake time, let me just add our footer here. And we're going to change the background color on this one. And drag in the rich text here and copy this last bit here. And what I have is a fairly decent looking email done, maybe in 10 minutes. And hopefully that gives you kind of an idea of what you can do. Like this, maybe not up here. I want to move it down here. Yeah, let's put it there. That looks good. I don't like this extra white here. So one thing I can do is click on the outside here. I can change that light gray to a different color, but the body here, there's 10 by default. I can come ahead and hit 0. I like this much better. This was an image. And let's say I would want to add a mail merge here. And I want it, in the blue, but I'll show you it here just so you can see it. I can come to merge fields. It's going to bring me a list. So if I want send recipient, I'm going to go first name. It's going to bring in the code here. So I'm going to grab that. And I would do the same thing for the unsubscribe. I can go to other and hit email preference or preference center and highlight that. And that's what I did here, just to kind of show what I did. It's right there, and I hit a link, and I could copy this. This would be the email preference center, but this is how I would do it. So again, all this was created with no code. I just did the editor, good looking email. I got different colors, different fonts, different font sizes. I got a call to action. If I wanted maybe to duplicate this, I can go ahead, duplicate it, and I can drag it down here maybe. And I could do the other three. Once I'm done, I'm going to hit save. And now I can use this as a template. If I go to email content, I went ahead and created one earlier just to save a little bit of time. So I went email content, I grabbed it, I called it trash earlier, but you can see the email I created. Looks good. I added a block, which I didn't have time for. But 3 things I want to point out is I can preview the as. If I come here, hopefully comes up here. I can find a prospect. So the president is an alumni here. I can go ahead and switch that. And now you can see the mail merge is working. Other thing to point out is the test. If you have an email list, just like the classic, you can add that here. If you want to just type the email out, you can do that on the bottom part, which I'll do here in a second. And once you do this, it looks like there's nothing to do. The trick here is just hit enter. Once I hit enter, it's going to add. Now I can send an email. And definitely with the Lightning, make sure send plenty of email tests. We'll talk about that here in a second. And then the last thing I want to point out is if I want to use this in an autoresponder or engagement studio program, make sure to activate for automation. This is the last step. This is where you'll add your campaign sender and other information. So as I said, just want to give you a quick overview. Hopefully that helps. And hopefully that's a lot better looking than this email. Hannah's going to go ahead, bring up the slides here. And we got some kind of advanced tips that we wanted to cover in the last part of this section.
Sure, just give me 1 second and I will. All right, so Theron, if you want to try to answer some of the questions in the Q&A, I've been answering them as you've been speaking, so we can get to all of them. All right, so we're going to talk about advanced tips. And Theron, if you want to take it off with the dynamic content.
I kind of teased about the dynamic content. There's not a button for it, but you can do this with the mail merge. And all you need to do is go to your dynamic content tab and grab your ID. In this case, I'm using 472. And I'm going to replace that in the ID that's highlighted. And on the next slide, you'll see what I did here. And I can go perfect. And so I just hard coded it dynamic content underscore 472. And then I did that preview. And now you can see, how are you doing in beautiful Florida? So kind of a workaround, but you can bring in dynamic content with this trick.
Yeah, and another challenge I've heard from my own team and something we came across was when you create templates and emails, it doesn't look like you can add a custom preference center because once again, you're going to see when you add the merge tag, you're going to see, well, you can only select one preference center versus in the Lightning Builder, what you're going to see is you can, or in the Legacy Builder in Pardot account engagement, you're going to see options of which one to select. Well, it's the same thing here. You can actually just hard code that with email preference center underscore ID. That ID is a little tricky to find, but we do have the step-by-step instructions for you on how to do this. And I've not had any issues with this. I've had these set up in templates for over a year and not had any issues with mailability or users being able to actually manage their preferences. So it's a little weird to find this. It's not as easy as the dynamic content. But what you're going to do is you actually open in the account engagement email. So the traditional legacy email, you just create a draft and then throw in some sample copy to create a hyperlink. You're going to create that hyperlink And you're going to see on the right-hand side of the screen where you can actually now select the preference center you're looking for. So I'm going to give it the one I want. And then you can inspect your HTML of that hyperlink, and it's going to give you the ID that you need. So for example, this one, the ID is 429. So I would just go in and add that into my templates. And once you've set it up once, you're good to go. You just have that set up, and all of your users, all your marketers can use that for every email. All right, locking template sections. Theron, do you want to do this one?
Yeah, just real quick overview. In the editor, you'll see allow changes in email. And I know when I first started, I thought, oh, I'll lock this out for everyone but me. But it doesn't do that for account engagement. Anyone with account engagement can still go in there and change it. But what this is nice for is maybe your sales or BDR team. It will lock them out of that section. So maybe if it's a footer you don't want them to mess with, you can lock that. But just realize it's not going to work in account engagement. So we just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, so I'll add to that. So I use that internally for my sales teams. If I want to, in customer service, I want to provide them templates to use. I build them in the Lightning Builder and then make them available to them in either the case app or the customer service app or the sales app. So that allows certain sections to be locked, like the headers and the footers, but they could modify the text. All right, testing. So testing is a big thing. Something you're not going to be able to do with the Lightning Builder, which can be a little frustrating, is using like a litmus or an email on acid to test your templates if you're used to something like that. The workaround that I've found that has worked okay, it's definitely not a one-to-one replacement, but it does help, is just after you send an email and really review your account engagement reports and see what email clients are very popular in your audience. So for example, the company I work for sells B2B. Many of our users are desktop. We see that across all of our platforms when we look at our ads, emails, etc. So we know that desktop versions of email clients need to be really spot on. We have less mobile traffic than some companies do. So this is just a screenshot of a breakdown, and we can see that lots of people are using Outlook, which we can expect in my company, and then a lot of people are actually using the Apple Mail Privacy. So what we do internally is we just test those emails in as many platforms as possible. So bring it up on your phone in Apple Mail, bring it up through your Gmail. Maybe you have a Hotmail, test that. Test it in Outlook. In as many places that you have accessible to you, just try to test that and see how things are rendering. We've caught a lot of errors this way.
Test. I know I send copies to my Yahoo address, Gmail. I look at it at mobile, all the different ones I can look at. I try to look on my actual devices, just to add that.
Yeah. And then hyperlinking email addresses. So this is something that I've added to some of our templates to make it easier for my marketers, because for some reason you think it's as easy as hyperlinking text, right? Adding that mail to, and it should just work. Well, sometimes in Lightning Builder, it doesn't work. So what I've found is that if it doesn't work that way first, trying that hyperlink, the standard feature of hyperlinking, then try a workaround. Also, just to note that your spaces need to be represented by a percentage sign and then 20, the number 20. That's what account engagement recognizes as spaces in the HTML. So that could be something you're running up against if it works for you, but your subject line is all scrunched together. Make sure you're not separating them by plus signs or something else. So what I've done in the past for our templates is I've actually removed the existing hyperlinks, and then I just go into the HTML side, and then I copy and paste my written HTML. So I put in the mail to directly into the HTML, and I've not had any issues with that since I've started doing that. Obviously, test everything you're going to do, these workarounds, but this is a workaround that works for me, and I actually did this yesterday. And this way, you can add all your traditional mail to items. You can CC other people. You can add subject lines. You can add body copy, etc. Whatever you want to do, just make sure you throw that in your href in the HTML, and then you should be good to go. Here's another tip that also something you can add to your templates. I like to add a lot of elements to my templates that seem to be challenging to people, and then strip it out later if I need to. So superscripts and subscripts. The rich text editor within Lightning Builder doesn't have a button for superscripts and subscripts, which can be really frustrating. It does work. You can still achieve this. You just have to do it through HTML. So it's going to take those HTML tags to make it work. So you'll just want to go in, inspect your code, write that in manually. If you are a little apprehensive with that, you could throw it into ChatGPT. That would really help as well. And you can just see a screenshot of an email that I sent and how you can actually get that superscript. All right, Theron.
Next one's just optimizing plain text, and the Lightning template builder does a decent job of bringing over the HTML, but it's not formatted the greatest. So this article here, it's a great resource, kind of goes through, just how to make it more reader friendly. And especially with people wearing wearables nowadays, I think the text version's becoming more and more important. So on the next slide, I kind of show what the left one looks like, which is the unedited one. And this is how it's coming in from the Lightning Builder. It's pretty basic. On the right one, I did go through, added, the blocks, added some bullet points, tried to make an ordered list with the ones there. And hopefully that's going to be easier to read for anyone that is getting a text version. But as said, with wearables and other things, I think the text version is becoming more and more important than it has in the past.
Agreed. Yeah, make sure you're optimizing for plain text before you send. That's something that I reiterate to my team, and I'm always on the team about that because also a lot of email clients strip out formatting in images just for cybersecurity. That's becoming more and more popular as well. We have some clients internally that do that. So making sure you have a readable version, because even when you click that sync to HTML button, it does not look good. You have to manually change it. Some HTML resources. So if you're new to HTML, W3 Schools is a great resource. That is a place that will provide you with all of the tags you could really ever need for HTML. So that's where I can find the superscripts and subscripts, mail to information, all of those things I talked about. It's going to be available there. Like I said, try ChatGPT if you want your HTML to do something that you're not sure how to do. Ask ChatGPT to do it and see what it gives you back. There's some other resources, like HubSpot has a pretty decent ebook that you can download. I've used that resource before. And then also, if you want something a little more advanced, there's obviously classes and things online, but Sercante does offer a code school for marketers. So I've provided that link in there, and that is meant for Aparta admins. That's going to be really tailored if you're looking for a deep dive into HTML and CSS.
And one note, just practice. I like to get different emails that I might get and and try building it in the Lightning Builder, see what limitations you might run across to. But as you can kind of see here, and I'll let Hannah talk to it, kind of think 80-20 rule. The template I was using for the demo, I grabbed from befree.io. It was just a freebie that I had and used that. So get in there and make sure to practice. But back to Hannah here, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. So these are just a few takeaways from the session. We tried to cover some things that were really helpful, but we don't have a ton of time. So if you're nervous to try the Lightning Builder, I would say try it out, see what you can do in there. You definitely can build things that look really nice. It just may be a little different than what you're used to. Also, if you're a beginner, don't shy away from HTML. You can do a lot with just a few of these HTML workarounds. It does accept most HTML. It just may not be natively in that rich text editor. Like Theron said, that 80-20 rule. Opt for a blend of 80% drag and drop and just that 20% HTML for customization, where you want to get a little more detailed. and then test everything you do. Obviously, don't hit send without sending yourself multiple tests, looking at it in multiple clients, because that you don't want things to render inappropriately.
Thank you so much, Hannah and Theron. We're just about out of time here. I just want to remind everybody, if we didn't get time to ask your questions, please post it, and you can find our speakers in